Hello, welcome. Last time we concluded our learning in probability, introduction to probability and probability fraction, where we looked at how we can actually predict the chances an event has in occurring within an event, in occurring actually. The chances of an occurrence of an event, that's what we call probability. Then we linked it to fraction by calling it probability fractions. Today we are moving into another new topic, and in this new topic, we are simply going to introduce the two-dimensional shapes, where we introduce the two-dimensional shapes and the properties of some of the two-dimensional shapes. So on the board, we have the topic for today to be two-dimensional shapes. All right. So, he said that two-dimensional shapes are known as 2D shape. Yes. You either call it two-dimensional shapes or you call it 2D shapes. And we said that they are flat shapes drawn or printed on flat surface. So, two-dimensional shapes are flat shapes drawn on a surface or printed out still on a surface. That's why they are called two-dimensional shapes. Two-dimensional shapes doesn't have depth. They don't have depth. They don't have yes, they don't have depth. Okay? They can have length, they can have breadth or width, but they don't have depth. Depth simply means if I have this book is not a two-dimensional shape because it has depth. You can see the depth, right? You can see the depth, right? Okay. But this face of the book, I think this face is a rectangle. You can see the rectangular shape. The face of the book is a rectangle. But this book on its own is not a two-dimensional shape. We can call it a three-dimensional shape because it looks like a cuboid due to the presence of this depth. Alright? So 2D shapes don't have depth, but they are simply flat shapes drawn or printed on flat surfaces. So on flat surfaces. Now, some of the examples of two-dimensional shapes, we have the triangle, the square, rectangle, trapezoid, or you call it trapezium, pentagon, circles, oval, diamond, kite, parallelogram, rhombus, hexagon, heptagon, nonagon, decagon, and so on and so forth. All these things I'm mentioning are two-dimensional shapes. Now, two-dimensional shapes are always categorized in okay, they are categorized in different ways. I think from okay. One of the categories of two-dimensional shapes is called triangles. Now, a triangle is a two-dimensional shape that has three sides. That's a shape of three sides. One, two, three. That's why it's called triangle. Tri means three. Angle. Okay? So triangle is a two-dimensional shape that is what? That is made up of three sides. Alright? Now, the next class of 2D shapes is called the quadrilaterals. It is called the what? Quadrilaterals. Now, what is quad? Quad simply means four. So, a quadrilateral is a two-dimensional shape of four sides, meaning that square is a quadrilateral, rectangle is a quadrilateral, diamond is a quadrilateral, trapezium is a quadrilateral, rhombus is a quadrilateral, parallelogram are quadrilaterals because they all have only four sides. Okay? So when we mention square, rectangle, they can be grouped. They have a family name, a surname called quadrilaterals. Just like triangle. Triangle is the surname of all three-dimensional, three-sided shapes. Okay? Because in triangle, you now have isosceles triangle, a right angle triangle, equilateral triangle, scalene triangle, and so on and so forth. Triangle is the surname. What the literal is the surname for all shapes that has 4 sides. Then shapes that has 5 sides are called pentagon. Like you see the shape, what's the size? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because of its 5 sides, it's called a pentagon. Alright? Pentagon, 5-sided shapes. Okay? Then we have hexagon, heptagon, 6, 7. That's hexagon for 6-sided shapes or heptagon. Then heptagon for 7-sided shapes. Octagon, 8-sided shapes. Nonagon, 9-sided shapes. Decagon, 10-sided shapes. So these are the different groups of what? 2-dimensional shapes. Okay? So let's look at some of the properties of some of these 2-dimensional shapes. Alright? Now, the first shape we are considering is the square. Say that a square has 4 equal sides. The whole sides of a square are equal. So a square has 4 equal sides. A square also has 4 corners. This part is the corners of these shapes. So you can see that for this square we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So if square has 4 corners, 4 equal sides, I see it. These are the properties of the square. And we now say that each corner has a right angle, and the right angle is angle 90 degrees. You can see that there's a right angle here. This is 90 degrees. This is 90 degrees. This is 90 degrees. This is 90 degrees. So all the angles that are formed in the corners of a square are all right angles. And right angles are angles of 90 degrees. An angle whose value is 90 degrees is called a right angle. The second shape we are going to consider is the rectangle. And the rectangle and the square has similar properties. The only difference is that in rectangle, all the sides are not equal, but rather the opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. So in the properties, we say that it has 4 sides, then opposite sides are equal, and 4 corners, all 4 corners are 90 degrees. So if this is our rectangle, this side is equal to this side is equal to this side. Alright, that's why, because this side is opposite to this side, the property says that these opposite sides are equal. This side is opposite to this side, so the property says that these 2 sides are equal. That's what it means by opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. Number 3, we are considering the triangle. We say that a triangle has 3 sides and it also has 3 angles. You can see the 3 sides of this triangle, then you can see the 3 angles at this point. Okay? Remember, an angle is formed when 2 straight lines intersect, when they meet at the point. So a triangle has 3 angles, and the sum of these 3 angles is 180 degrees. So if the angles here, let me say that the angles here are A, B, C. What this property is simply telling us is that when we add angle A plus angle B plus angle C, our answer will give us 180 degrees. Okay? Our answer will give us what? 180 degrees. That's what the property says, that when you add the angles inside the triangle, when you add the 3 of them together, you must get what? 180 degrees. Then the fourth 2D shape we are going to consider is the rhombus. Is the what? Rhombus. Now the properties of a rhombus says that a rhombus has 4 sides and all the 4 sides are equal in length. What does this tell you? This simply tells us that a rhombus is formed by a square, and a rhombus is simply a slant square. Let's say this, here is slant, here is slant, here continuous. So if this shape is formed by a square, then this shape is a rhombus. Alright? If it is formed by a square, it is a rhombus. So then the next property of rhombus is that the opposite angles are equal. Allow me to clean. Let me just clean. Okay. Let me still use here. Let's say this is a rhombus. If this is a rhombus, then the angle here and the angle here are equal. The angle here and the angle here are equal because they are both opposite. So if this place is A, here will be A. If this place is B, here will be B. Alright? That's what that property means. That the opposite angles are equal. A parallelogram. Now the parallelogram is formed by a rectangle. It's still the same shape of a rhombus, but it is now formed by a rectangle. If this is a rectangle, but it is slanting like this, then this becomes a parallelogram. This is a parallelogram because it is formed by a rectangle. Now, the parallelogram has four sides, and the opposite sides are equal in length. The same thing as the opposite angles are equal in length. So this place and this place are equal. This place and this place are equal. This angle and this angle are equal. This angle and this angle are equal. So these are the properties of some of the selected two-dimensional shapes. Okay? So remember, take down your notes. We will now buttress on the 2D shapes and look at other 2D shapes like the hexagon, the heptagon, the octagon, which we call pentagons or polygons, because a polygon is a 2D shapes. Now, different types of polygons now gives us the different names as a result of the number of sides of those two-dimensional shapes. We have an example of one of them already: pentagon, rectangle, triangle, but they are all called polygons. They are two-dimensional shapes. So take down your notes, then we'll see in our live class. Thanks and bye.